There's just some things that do not need to be combined, like pizza and pineapple, Minecraft YouTubers with little children, but the most sinful one is Persona and Gacha. Persona 5 Phantom X is the Frankenstein that Sega has produced, which is as crazy as it sounds. This is a Persona 5 game, but instead of being a Persona 5 game, it's a Persona 5 Gacha game. I already gave my initial thoughts about the game in the previous video, and I did say after 10 plus hours, it's pretty mid, but after continuing it and playing it for more hours, I have decided that I will not be continuing the game again. I know this is a sad day for all gamers worldwide, as I, the arbiter of truth, will not be continuing to play Persona 5 Phantom X because it simply is not worth my time. P5X doesn't really excel much in anything, especially with the global release where the gacha stuff relating to the rewards, content schedule, compensation, everything seems like it's all messed up and they're just trying to rush everything to keep up with the Korean and Chinese servers, if I recall. But I'm just gonna go over the game itself first. Also, since this is a gacha game, I'll put a disclaimer here. I absolutely do not like the gacha system in this game or in any game at all. So be ready for me to go on a rant about the gacha aspect of the game. It's actually really hard to look at the game in itself because of all the gacha stuff that's present and very upfront about it in your face, but I think the gameplay is still quite undercooked. Now, between Persona 5 and this game, there are actually quite a few differences. Firstly is the combat system. The combat system, it's not entirely different. It's still your average run-of-the-mill Persona turn-based combat system, but there are a few key differences that make it different. The controls are different. In Persona 5, if you use a controller, you'll be navigating through the combat actions using the joystick, D-pad, then you press X or A depending on the console to execute the action you want to do. But in this game, P5X, you don't need to do all of that. The controls changed, so you just press a single button, whether you want to attack using your weapon or using your persona. It took me a while to actually get comfortable with the controls. Even now, I think I still struggle to navigate the actions while in a battle. Somehow, even when there are less buttons to navigate the combat, it feels counterintuitive when using a controller. I don't know if the game was designed for the mobile version first in mind, but it just seems like they made an unnecessary change to this small but detrimental thing. Anyways, with the combat, instead of the baton pass system in Persona 5, this one is a one more system with baton pass, if that makes sense. One more system does exist in Persona 3 Reload. It's called Shift, which if you downed an enemy, you can switch over to another member in your party so that you can down another enemy and switch to another member again. And the whole process repeats like that. That is what Persona 5 Phantom X has over the baton pass in the original Persona 5. The baton pass, if you're not familiar with, it's similar to the one more system, but if you switch over to a different party member each time, your attack is going to be a lot stronger. So you can basically stack to a couple of times and the last attack from the baton pass can deal a lot of damage. Now in Persona 5 Phantom X, they do have the one more system, but it's not a good one more system. What I mean by that is there is no way for you to target where your one more attack is going to hit. So basically, when you're in the one more turn, you can only get to pick the next party member that you want to use to attack. Can you pick which enemy you want to attack? No, that's a crime. It attacks the enemy randomly, with the exception if the enemy has a weakness to an element. If the enemy has a weakness to an element, then the one more attack will target that enemy. But if it doesn't have an element weakness, it chooses its target randomly or the same target that the previous attack landed. That is a very annoying thing that they changed from just basically any Persona in existence, because it's less intuitive and does not allow us to strategize an attack. It even ignores if the enemy has a resistance to the element, it will attack it randomly. Okay, maybe not randomly, but it's just the fact that we cannot choose the enemy we want to attack after the one more is very annoying, and there is really no viable reason for it to be removed. The next massive difference between P5X and Persona 5 is the showtime attacks. In P5X, it's not called showtime attacks, it's called highlight attacks. The highlight attacks are what I would argue is much better than the original showtime attacks. In Persona 5, the showtime attacks are kind of random. It can randomly trigger under very specific conditions, which you don't really get to meet most of the time, but in P5X, the highlight attacks are basically your ultimate attack or ultimate move. So instead of having a tag team up from two party members in Showtime, the highlight attacks are just one single party member doing some flashy move to execute their ultimate attack. It's sort of similar to 3G, but you can fill up the gauge meter just by attacking the enemies instead of a specific thing you need to do. Any party member in your team can activate their highlight attack once, then they need to wait for a couple of turns and fill up the gauge meter to be able to activate it again. Also, to add to that, navigator support power-ups are also different to Persona 5. Persona 5, Futaba randomly power-ups your team. There's no way to activate it manually or to know when she's gonna buff your team, which is kind of annoying since most of the time she doesn't do anything if she's buffing your team randomly. I played through Persona 5 Royale. Futaba only buffs my team a handful of times throughout my playthrough. If I were going against those enemies that have the massive red aura around them, she never buffs my team, always buffing on bosses and rarely on mini bosses. In P5X, the navigator support system is much better. After 4 rounds or somewhere around that, you can activate one of your navigator's skills. So you can basically buff manually and do not leave it up to a random chance as opposed to Futaba in Persona 5, which is good. You can also change who would be your navigator as well. I think for now there's only 2 or 3 characters that you can choose to be your extra support for your team. They can buff your attack, your healing, or even give you shields to deflect certain types of attacks against your party members. Now on to the meat and bones of the combat system, we have to talk about the change that they made to Persona's movesets. In P5X, the movesets are changed quite a bit. There are still your usual Agadine, Garula, Zio, and others, but in this game there are skills that do the usual basic element damage, but they have extra stats that can do extra things. For example, one of the Phantom idols called Cotone Montaigne or Montagny or whatever has a skill where it's an ice attack on a single enemy which gains 4 crystal ice stacks. If you have 10 or more crystal ice stacks, at the end of her attack she will do a follow-up attack that usually crits and deals a substantial amount of damage. There's also another attack of hers, a single target ice attack called Durandal of Ice, where if Cotone has 10 or more crystal ice stacks, then the attack does a lot more damage based on the percentage of HP that is missing from the enemy, and the follow-up attack also gets empowered. So basically, a lot of your party members that you're going to get will have their own special type of attack. They're still your usual elemental type attacks, but they have extra effects and stats sprinkled onto them. Now, the thing is with this type of system, it's usually very complicated. For example, there's a Phantom idol called Toshiasumi, which is a dark elemental type Phantom idol. He has 2 different type of stacks, which do different things, I would presume. That kind of adds a layer of complicatedness in the combat. In light of that being a lot more complicated, all it really boils down to is statistical mumbo jumbo most of the time. Also, just in case you're confused on what a Phantom idol is, they're basically just manifestations created by the Velvet Room attendant, Merope, and the protagonist's cognition. These cognitions are based on the people that the protagonist knows or who Merope knows. So the characters Cotone Montaigne and Toshiasumi are not actual Phantom Thieves or Persona users, they're just normal people who probably have crossed paths or are friends with the protagonist. Now back to what I was saying before, the attacks have a lot of statistical mumbo jumbo that doesn't really help anything most of the time. Cotone's crystal ice stacks are in most cases useful, but for the other characters I couldn't really say because I have never seen any benefits that I have gotten from activating these skills that had a lot of things attached to them. Most of the time I don't even know what it means, and you're probably wondering, how did you even play the game when you don't know anything about the moves? I think those stats really do not matter in nearly all cases. It's only very useful when you're under-leveled for a boss fight and you can strategize more and really min-max your fight. But if you're properly leveled for the boss fight, you can just have a healer with 3 DPS in your team and you're good to go. Sometimes you won't even notice that the extra skills activate. It does add a layer of depth to the overall combat, but this is really not anything significant if you're a normal Persona player. In normal Persona, the combat is not as deep as P5X. It's pretty straightforward. You have elemental attacks, physical attacks, buffs and heals, debuffs against the enemies, easy to learn and fun to play. Since I'm looking at P5X from the perspective of a Persona player that have played Persona 3 Reload, Persona 4 Golden, Persona 5 Royale, and a bit of Persona 1, the extra skills and abilities that P5X has in their movesets do not add any significant differences to the gameplay from what I feel. Sure, it adds on top of it, but it doesn't feel like it was an important change to be made. In fact, there's usually a rotation of moves that we do in Persona games, and I think P5X kind of disrupts that. I don't know if it's just because of the very limited movesets of Personas and characters that I have in my team, because I refuse to spend any type of money on a gacha game, but the usual rotation of support move once or twice, then do a big attack in the next turn is kind of gone in this game. That's what I kind of noticed when playing this game. I never do a power-up move before doing a really big attack. Again, this is probably due to my personal preferences on how I like to play the game and me just not having a lot of moves and characters, but all I do in this game is just attack, 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 heal, attack, 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 heal, and not the slightest bit of strategy. Right now I'm in the second palace. I've been stuck in that palace for a week straight and I still haven't beaten it. Not because it's a hard final boss fight, but because my team is still underleveled and the progression system in this game is so ass, it's frustrating and I'm tired of grinding in a gacha game. So in trying to get over that underleveled problem, I try to at least go for a strategy that I can do. I grabbed my personas that have an elemental resistance to the boss's attacks. I grabbed the characters who also have the elemental resistance as well. I leveled up the stupid ass revelation cards on them. I tried going for a strategy, playing it very safe, and it still wasn't enough. It wasn't enough because I was simply too underleveled, and it's frustrating. In most cases, being underleveled in turn-based RPGs is very common, but the games really do encourage you to grind a lot so you can just breeze through it. Being overleveled is also an option, but that takes a lot of time to grind and I really do not want to do that, especially if it's a gacha game. I think most of the time when you're just a tad bit underleveled, as long as you have some sort of game plan in mind, you're good to go. It really challenges you as a player to come up with ways to beat the game, which is something that is really fun to do. Like when I did the first 3 shadow boss fights in Persona 4 Golden, I was underleveled and I did it in the hardest difficulty. But I kept trying, I strategized, I foresaw the boss's attacks, and I won despite being pretty underleveled. That is really fun to do and the payoff feeling was immense. In contrast, in P5X, there is almost zero game plan that you can do in this game. Look, have I lost my edge in Persona? Maybe. But this is a game that I do not want to grind my ass off on. It would take days and even weeks of my precious time. You can make significant progress in 3 hours in Persona 5 than in 3 days in P5X. Being in a slight level difference between your team and the Miyazawa Shadow boss fight, nearly impossible to beat it without getting it to at least level 60 plus, is frustrating without any reasons for it to be. You rarely use any type of strategy in the game. I have played it for 30 plus hours now, and all I have been doing is attack, heal, and guard when I need to. I never used debuffs against the bosses. I rarely used any of the power-up moves because I just don't have any. What the hell is this? I don't know, maybe it all comes down to skill issues, but the Miyazawa boss is infuriating. Anyways, enough of the rant on the combat and Miyazawa. I think the combat overall is not as good as normal Persona games, which is concerning. They do some things better like highlight attacks and navigator supports, but the rest are undercooked and just unnecessary. They do not add anything better to the Persona gameplay experience. It tries hard to be something like Honkai Star Rail. It really is. It was clearly trying to follow what Honkai Star Rail does with the additional skills and stats in the movesets, and it punishes you severely for being underleveled. Now we move on to the life sim aspect. The Confidant, the activities that you can do, and all the convenience stores and whatnot. Now I know that I said I have played around 30 hours only in the game, but only a small percentage of those hours played is the life sim aspect, which is a little concerning, but I think is in line with how Persona games usually go. Persona 3 Reload, in the 110 hours you play, 80 hours is going to be spent in Tartarus, so I guess it does fall in line with how things usually go. Now I'm also gonna be talking about the technicalities and the quality of the game, like the polish, the bugs, and the overall feel of the game. But first, I think we can talk about the life sim part. So since this is a live service Persona game, the calendar system does not exist. You're not confined to a time limit of a year like in Persona games, which I like the change. That means you can do basically anything you want without worrying about not having enough time to do all of the confidence and things like that. In P5X, so far there are already a good amount of characters that you can interact with. I need to mention that Merope is probably my favorite Velvet Room attendant in this series so far. Now obviously I think that she looks the best out of all of them. She still has the curiosity of wanting to know the human connections and emotions, the rolled out outside of the Velvet Room, which is the standard for all Velvet Room attendants since Persona 3. So it's good to know that it's still in line with the whole lore and characterization in the Persona universe. She acts quirky, she's oblivious to certain human emotions, and she really likes idols a lot. She's a big fan of idols and made themed cafes. In a way, she's very similar to Elizabeth, but a much more elegant looking person. So it's like Elizabeth and Margaret combined together almost. Anyways, I haven't finished any of the Confidants so far. It takes a lot of time to up your social stats, and you can only get to do 5 actions a day. A day meaning a day in real life, not a day in Persona. The Gacha stamina system is also present in the life sim, which I am getting tired of. Anyways, I do not have many complaints about the Confidants. So far, they're really just okay. Not anything bad or good because I haven't made any real progress with them. But what I do have concerns about is the Confidant system. So in this instance, it's not called a Confidant rank, it's called Synergy. For all the characters, I would presume the max Synergy rank that you can achieve with them is rank 20. 20 is a lot of ranks to go through. Combine that with the stamina gacha system and the amount of time it would take to improve your social stats, the world would be finding the cure for cancer faster than you actually maxing out the Synergy rank with any of the Confidants. Like, everything in this game is 10 times longer, which I really do not like at all. Now, the Synergy ranks work differently with the OG Persona 5 Confidant rank system. There's a reason why there are 20 ranks of Synergy that you have to go through instead of the usual 10 ranks in the OG Persona. It's because in doing the Confidants, half of the ranks means absolutely nothing. So how the synergy works is that ranks with odd numbers, if you don't know what odd numbers are, I suggest you go back to elementary school. They are the only ranks that actually hold the development for the relationship. In the odd numbered ranks, those are the only ranks that mattered in a sense. In the even numbers, there is no development with the characters. It's literally just filler. Odd numbered ranks are just the main episodes, while the even numbered ranks are the filler episodes. That's how it works in P5X, and that's why the progression for the Confidants is twice as long. To me, this change is pretty useless and really bad. The thing is, with social links and Confidants in previous games, there are obviously hangouts that don't progress the ranks. There are still filler episodes in between, but you don't do much of those. An example, like if you did Ryuji's Confidant, then you progressed a rank, but since there aren't many music notes to go by and activate his next Confidant rank, you might do one single hangout with him, then you can activate and progress through the next rank. Even then, 90% of the time, just doing the main Confidant progression will allow you to progress to the next rank instantly. There's only 10 ranks to go through, while in P5X there's 20, but it's actually disguised as 10 ranks. Why does it need to be that long? Why does it take so much time to actually finish their Confidants? I think at a certain point, you're probably just going to be repeating the same hangouts over and over again until you can progress to the odd numbered ranks, and it might not even be enough because you need to give them gifts as well, which is the most effective driver in progressing the Confidants. You're trying to make the Confidants longer in the most inefficient way possible. In Persona, going through 10 ranks of social links or Confidants already felt really long. The games are usually 100 plus hours. Let's say you played for 6 hours a day. That's still going to take you more than 2 weeks to finish it. But in those 2 weeks, the progress that you've made is significantly much better and much more satisfying than whatever you have in this stupid ass gacha game. So the synergy rank and the Confidant system is done horribly in this game. Then we go on to the activities that you can do in the game. So there are a lot of more activities that you can do in this game than the OG Persona 5. I'm pretty sure I haven't unlocked all of them, but you can shop for ingredients so you can cook at home, you can buy plant seeds and tend them in your own garden, you can change how you look as there are different clothing options for the protagonist, there are club activities that you can do which are little mini games, you can clean the house, you can even go and hang out in LeBlanc with some of the OG Persona 5 characters. There's definitely a lot of city activities that you can do in this game, which is nice. Obviously, doing those activities will up your social stats and even at times give you special rewards for it. Are the city life activities useful for defeating shadows in the metaverse? No. I mean, if you buy medicine from Takemi and cook, those are the only useful things that'll help in the metaverse, which again is the same with the OG Persona as I recall. Anyways, upping your social stats is really the most grueling part in the game. It takes way too long, it gives you so little progression, and it'll probably take twice or 3 times longer than the OG Persona Persona 5. But I think maybe in this instance it's kind of okay, although that means it adds on to how long it'll take to be able to progress on with the Confidants, which really sucks because I do actually find most of the characters to be interesting, and it has deterred my interest because of how shitty the progression is. Also, I forgot to mention, since gifts are really important to progressing the synergy ranks with the Confidants, most of the time you're probably going to be stuck doing part-time jobs because you need to buy gifts with money, not real life money, so good luck with that. Now let's get onto the technicalities or the quality of the game. As I said before, my point still stands from my last video. The game is severely undercooked and severely unpolished. There's just something about the animations, the graphics, and the functionality of P5X that makes it so counterintuitive. Like in Persona 5 Royale, everything is as smooth as butter. The transitions from exploring the palace to fighting the shadow, the animations and sounds of riding the Morgana car throughout the mementos, those are a few examples of how smooth and buttery the game is. Persona games are basically the god of polishing. They run so smoothly, they play so smoothly, and it feels like they take a lot of time to pay attention to just small minor details that make the game very satisfying. Again, Persona 5 Royale and Persona 3 Reload, their UI is the best I've ever seen. The design, the animations, the smooth transitions, everything is just so well done. In P5X, however, I would say there was an attempt. P5X UI is clearly the inferior one in comparison to the OG Persona 5, and it's not even close. Every time I finished defeating an enemy, the final screen where it would show the rewards and everything, it looks like it lagged. Like there's a delay in the transitions from finishing the battle to the reward screen. It's not smooth at all. Sometimes it just looks like a PowerPoint slide animation. Not sometimes, all the time. Not only that, the transition between attacking an enemy to the battle scene is also just as bad. The lag, the delay, and it's like some cheap transition trick or something. It does feel like a knockoff Persona 5 when it comes to these transitions and whatnot. The UI is very dysfunctional when using the controller. Sometimes the daily reward login screen will just not allow you to claim the rewards with a controller because it just refuses to. The controls in navigating many of the menus sucks as well. Usually with gacha games like Wuthering Waves, you can just navigate it using the D-pad or the joystick mostly, but for some reason in P5X, it uses buttons only. Like, what kind of anti-human reflex design is this? I don't know if the game is solely meant to be played with a mouse and keyboard or just on the phone, but if all Persona games can be played better on the controller, then why can't P5X do it? Like, it does not make sense at all. The UI is buggy sometimes with a controller. The design is all over the place, not really pleasing to look at, which is basically just anti-Persona game at this point. The Persona 5 UI aesthetics and design works really well because there is not too much clutter in the menu. Obviously, a single player game would have less stuff on the screen than in a live service game, but I think the Persona 5 UI design is made for a game that does not have a lot of clutter in the menus. The Persona 5 UI design for me enhances and makes it feel like there is no wasted space in the UI. It feels pleasing, aesthetically pleasing, and it's just really cool. That's the best way to describe it, is that it's just so nice to see the menu. The animations, the color scheme, the way Joker appears in the menu, it looks very nice. But P5X doesn't have that same feeling. It's a bad looking UI, which for a modern Persona game is basically criminal. Also, I like to point out some of the character sprites in the dialogues are clearly low res. I was watching a video that was also critiquing P5X, and it mentioned that some of the sprites are just low res for some reason. Knowing that, I cannot unsee the low-res image anymore. I can always notice it now, especially with Motoha. Her sprite looks awful. Why on earth did this ever happen? There is something wrong in the QA department in the development studio because it's clearly rushed. The game is very rushed. It's super unpolished and it feels so weird just playing it. Even the character animations when exploring the palace or walking around the overworld, hiding and grappling, the animations are so bad. It looks cheap, like it looks very cheap. It's so rigid and it just launches you instantly without any sort of smoothing of the animations to make it look natural. It looks bad. bad. The walking animations as well, it feels very clunky. This is why I'm going to call P5X to be a game that stands against everything that the modern Persona series stands for in terms of gameplay. It's not intuitive enough. Using a controller is a mess. There's little to no polishing in the animations, the UI, and there's still bugs present in the game. I've seen people praising the game on Twitter, glazing it like how FIFA and the MLS glazes Messi. It's insane how people actually prefer P5X over the original Persona 5. So all in all, in terms of the life sim aspect and the overall quality of the game, it's just really not good. It's super undercooked. It looks and feels cheap because it's clearly a rushed product. The game is just an easy cash grab because Persona 5 is the most popular and the most successful in the series, which is why we're going to talk about the gacha aspect of the game right now. Keep in mind that in this next part I'm going to be ranting a whole lot, so please bear with me. Now, in this instance, I am going to be talking about the gacha from P5X, but I think the opinions that I will have on some certain stuff will be my general distaste on the whole gacha system overall. I know what you're thinking. Are you going to talk about the story? I'll just say it here. I think the story so far is not good. I didn't like the first palace at all. You can check out my previous video on the subway slammer. And the second palace, so far, it's an improvement, but that's a low bar to get over. That's like saying Morbius is better than Madam Web. I mean, yeah, it is, but it's such a low bar that anything can be better than Madam Web. I do like Shun, the fourth member of the Timu Phantom Thieves. He's like a mix between Yusuke and Ryuji, which is interesting. Miyazawa, the main villain in the second palace, was also a step up compared to the subway slammer. His character does create some sort of real tension that makes the story feel important, but I didn't get or understand why Miyazawa is a villain. Like, there's no explanation as to why he's doing the things he's doing, but I think you'll eventually know his backstory when you defeat Miyazawa's shadow, so that sucks, and I haven't finished it anyways. So the stories are not good, and they're not great, and the characters are okay for now. So the gacha in this game is pretty bad according to a lot of people. This is due to the content schedule for the game, since the P5X global version released a year after the Chinese and Korean version. Obviously, there's a whole lot of content that the global version needs to catch up on. So in trying to do so, the developers decided to rush the content schedule, give its players very little compensation, and there's basically very little rewards as well. This is very concerning in the gacha aspect because the majority of players, people who do not whale on the game, will basically lose out on limited time events and banners quickly without any chance that they can roll for a limited character or item. That's sort of the crux of it. Again, I don't know much about the details because I do not care at all about the gacha and I hate it anyways. But that's why P5X on the Google Play Store had a 1.7 rating once, and it has overall mixed reviews on Steam. So of course, I do not like the gacha aspect a single bit, and I'm going to repeat that until my deathbed. I do not like any of the gacha aspects, how it is woven into the gameplay. It's literally anti-gamer behavior. I'm just gonna start off with the rerules, the holy grail of gacha gaming. The limited characters that have appeared so far are just the previous Phantom Thieves members from the OG Persona 5 and 2 or more other extra characters that have appeared in the city life activities, if I can recall. I don't know about you, but it seems like they're really lazy in creating new limited time characters. Oh my god, how do we get Persona fans to get into our gacha shithole and rob them of their money? I know, let's just get the characters from Persona to be in our Persona gacha game. Problem solved! See, doesn't that sound ridiculous? Like, I do get the excitement of getting your favorite Persona 5 character in the Persona 5 gacha game, but like, isn't there a whole new set of reality in Persona 5 Phantom X that has its own unique characters? Why can't you just make more of those? For example, Minami. She has a limited time banner. I think Minami was interesting. She doesn't have her own confidant from what I recall, but her story was kinda interesting. Her trying to find her own identity in doing what she truly wants to do rather than just caving into the self-pressure that she imposed herself on makes for an interesting coming-of-age story. She eventually became a limited time banner character, and I do want to see her more in the future. But the game instead uses the cheap way and easy way, using previous Persona 5 characters as limited time banners so you can wail your ass off to get your favorite Phantom Thief. That's just a blatant cash grab. It's just a cash grab. Everything about the gacha aspect is a cash grab. The pull rates, according to a lot of people, are very atrocious as well. It's about 0.8% or 0.2% chance to pull a 5-star character. There is basically little to no soft pity and 80 pulls for hard pity. 80 pulls for hard pity is probably better than most gachas, but these are the things that I really do not know much about. Pity, soft pity, hard pity, doing this amount of pull to get a guaranteed 5-star pull rates, 5% shit, 5% cum if you jerk hard enough. I don't understand these things. I don't care. I don't care about the gacha pull rates. I already hate the gacha, so why do I even bother? Anyways, according to people, the gacha rates in this game are pretty awful, so take it how you will. Now on to the next main gacha system that I hate in P5X are the existence of persona seals. So instead of you getting a persona through the negotiation like how you do in Persona 5, you basically farm for persona seals. These persona seals act like a persona, but its functionalities are nearly the same as XP material. You farm persona seals like how you farm XP materials in this game through the repression thingy. This system is so ass, it makes me so mad that it made me hate gacha even more than I used to. One of the fun parts in Persona, for me at least, is the ability to negotiate with the shadows so that you can have them as a persona, or you can get extra personas through the shuffle time rewards in Persona 3 and Persona 4. The fact that they took that away and in turn gave you the most shitty gacha alternative possible is insane. I like negotiating and catching new personas. It's one of the best parts in the whole persona mechanic for me. It's like I'm playing Pokemon but with mythical figures based in real mythology. And also, the persona fusion in this game is also so bad. You cannot fuse the personas that you already have in your persona arsenal. It uses persona seals instead of personas itself for the fusion. So you know what that means? It means that for 90% of the game you go through, you're not going to fuse any personas unless it's for advancing Merope's synergy ranks because she requested some personas with specific skills. Fusing persona is useless. There is no reason for it. It's useless because firstly, you're probably not going to have the persona seals at hand to fuse the persona you want. Secondly, the personas that you farm in the repression are going to be more than enough for you to get through the palaces and challenges. Lastly, if you want specific personas with specific moves, you can just use a persona seal onto a persona so that it can learn the skills and moves from the persona seal. There is no tangible or actual reason for you to use the persona fusion function except for Merope. It basically just removed one of the core components of Persona games for an alternative gacha mechanic that is so bad and so useless. Oh, and I forgot too. You can also pull for personas in the gacha. So basically, there's another reason for not using the Persona fusion system. Do you see now why that trying to make a Persona gacha game is a really shitty move? Moving on to the next part that is so bad as well, the stamina gacha system. Oh my god, whoever created this system should be confined into the Arkham Asylum with all of Batman's villains because their greed is exceeding supervillain levels. This is the biggest thing that pisses me off with gacha gaming. Look, all the microtransactions and cosmetics, getting limited time characters and materials to make yourself even more overpowered, I hate it. But it does not come close to the stamina gacha system. The stamina gacha system, the basic premise of it is to prevent you from playing the game. That is the sole reason for its existence. That is the way for free-to-play games or gacha games to remind their players that, hey, where your money at? It does not make sense how a system in a game is so anti-gamer friendly that people are willingly putting up with it. I tried to put up with it, but now I can't anymore. I would just prefer to buy a game than spend my time however I want to. The stamina gacha system, the reason for its existence, makes sense, no matter how much I bash and despise it. It's a way for the companies who made the gacha games to basically monetize time. It sounds ridiculous and it sounds atrocious that now companies are monetizing your time, but you can't really play a free game and expect the company to get money out of it, right? There's a video about the whole stamina gacha system that I recommend you need to watch because it does give an insightful look at it. Basically, yes, it does prevent you from playing the game, especially if you're a binge gamer like I am. This leads to two things. habitual formation, and slowing down progression. Habitual formation meaning that gacha games are basically supposed to be a part of your daily life. It has daily logins and the stamina has a cap, so if you didn't log in yesterday, the stamina points won't go any higher, which means that you're losing out on the progression if you were to log in the day before. It encourages you to at least log in once a day to keep you playing the game. It does this because apparently developers found out that people who are not logging or playing regularly will be more likely to quit compared to the players who play every day and are buying into the microtransactions. But weirdly enough, it has an opposite effect on me. Next is slowing down progression. Yes, in gacha games, you are not allowed to consume all the content at once because it's a live service game. Gacha games need months to produce new content, so with the stamina gacha system, it basically forces you to progress in the way that the developer wants to. They don't want you to blast through all the content then not play the game at all after that. It would be better for you to just do some things today than pick up where you left off tomorrow. Habitual and slowing down progression are the crux of the gameplay loop in gacha games, especially in P5X, where it's not an open world action RPG like Wuthering Waves or Genshin Impact. In this instance, it's really hard to actually come up with an alternative to the gacha stamina system, because the game doesn't reward you much for exploring the mementos and the overworld. It doesn't reward you with character XP, which it needs to, so that the level cap for your team can be higher, thus you can beat the final shadow boss in the palace. That's where it pisses me off the most. It doesn't allow you to basically progress however you want to. Instead, you need to buy into the gacha system so they can finally reward you with the things that should have been rewarded if you were able to devote a lot of your time into it. Look, habitual formation and slowing down progression, I think it all boils down to you spending your money. The game doesn't allow you to spend your time with it if you're not buying into it. It doesn't give you that freedom. It doesn't reward you for just playing the game. That's why I really dislike gacha games for the most part, because it's anti-gamer behavior and it really meant free to play to the bones. Free to play, but pay to progress, pay to have fun, and pay to win. Anything that's not an open world action RPG can offer little to no replayability outside of grinding. That's why when I saw Project Mugen's trailer, I got excited because it looked like GTA and anime gacha game were to be combined. If it's literally like that, that means the open world should be exciting and there are tons of things that we can do outside of progressing the content and grinding the game, which is going to be the main replayability incentive. If P5X keeps creating this artificial time gate for you and offers really shitty ways to keep you playing the game, why would I even bother to play the game? How is a company going to dictate the hours you want to spend on the game? It sounds ridiculous, right? But it's just how it is with how a live service game works. It sucks that so many great games are being locked down into a live service. It really is. The two options of an alternative for the stamina system is either you grind way too long because an RNG for a material is so atrociously bad, you're going to end up with a family of 4 at the end of it, or you buy into the system to get what you want. There's really no good other way in this instance. Wuthering Waves for me is a great game, but I will never like or appreciate the stamina system. I will never like or appreciate the daily logins and farming for XP materials. It's anti-RPG, it's anti-gamer, it's not meant for you to play for a long period of time or to keep you engaged all the time, which is against the basic premise of what these types of games are supposed to be. But P5X has it worse. It doesn't offer anything else other than story, confidence, city life activities, which are confined to the stamina system. It's just this terrible feedback loop of daily login, farming XP materials, and the stamina system. Then that feedback loop will force you to buy into the gacha system. It's just miserable. In the end, Persona and Gacha don't work for me at all. It's not trying to do anything different with the Persona series. In fact, it's trying to do something different with the series, but it's doing it horribly. The combat system is trying so hard to be similar to Honkai Star Rail. The synergy rank system is a horrible rendition of the original Confidant and Social Link rank system. Using a controller is atrocious. There are still bugs present that is hard to ignore. The UI is a cheap knockoff knockoff of the OG. Quality of the polish is unpresent. It tried to change the core component of the game, persona fusions and negotiations, with an alternative that is so atrocious. The gacha rates are bad, devs are lazy in trying to get people into the game, and the gacha stamina system puts the final nail in the coffin and making me not want to play the game anymore. But there are small things that P5X did better than the OG game. The highlight attacks and navigator supports are great changes. Additions of some new characters are pretty okay too. I think their designs and characters are good, and the 3D models of the characters are fantastic. That's something I forgot to add in before, that the 3D models in these games are actually really good. But overall, it's just not a good game. It disappointed me and looks like I will be going in further into the future without any Persona things to do until Persona 4 Revival. So let me know what you think about the game in the comments down below. Did you like it or did you not? Let me know your thoughts on it. Give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. That is all. I'll see ya.